Well, hello there, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition. We've come now to the end of the week, and what a blessing. Isn't the Lord faithful to bring us through one day at a time? He's faithful. And you have any plans for the weekend? What are you going to do? What's the weather like where you're at? Well, if you're here, it's been pretty nice. We're getting into the summer months. Here in Southern California, sometimes we have what's called June gloom. It's just that little cloud cover that kind of burns off during the middle of the day, but I don't mind it. It doesn't bother me. I love this time of year. I love summer, and I enjoy. I hope that you are being blessed as well. But today, we are still in 1 Corinthians and in the 10th chapter. Paul has just used an Old Testament illustration. He looked back at the life and the ministry of Moses, and he's talking about the people that were brought out of bondage and that followed Moses. And they weren't the easiest people to take care of. You know that, right? They complained a lot. I mean, they were always, they murmured. They murmured in their tents. They murmured against Moses. They didn't like his leadership. They didn't like his food. They just on and on. And Moses at one point said, why are you you're not complaining against us. You're actually, when you complain, you're complaining against God. And that's what was the source of their complaining? What was really the soil in which their discontentment had grown? Well, Paul tells us right here what the problem was. And this is sometimes our problem as well. If you look at chapter 10, beginning in verse 5, it says, "But with most of them, God was not well pleased, for their bodies were scattered in the wilderness." Like, whoa, wait a second, what happened here? You remember what happened? This group of people that followed Moses, it was the Lord's desire to take them out of Egypt and into the promised land. That was the goal. And you know something? It really wasn't that far of a trip to go from Egypt to Kadesh Barnea, to the border of the promised land. And what happened? Well, they sent in 12 spies. 2 of those spies were named Joshua and Caleb, and then there were 10 others. They all went into the land to spy out the land. And when they came back, they told Moses, you know what? Just to confirm, it's just like God said. It is a land flowing with milk and honey. It is prosperous. It is fruitful. In fact, it says that they brought back grapes from the land of Canaan that were the size of a man's fist. That's a pretty big grape. They said, it's just like God said. But then they said, however, there's a problem. Well, what's the problem? There's giants in the land. There's a lot of big people. There's fortified cities. It's going to be one war after another. So although it's nice, we can't go in. We're not doing it. Joshua and Caleb stood up and they said, listen, we can take the land. Do you think they're too big they're too big to miss. We can take them. They're our bread. God's called us. Let's go for it. They were trying to rally the people. Unfortunately, the 10 spies convinced the people not to go into the land. And so you know what happened? Because of their unbelief, for the next 40 years, that entire generation would wander around and they would die in the wilderness. How sad. It was unbelief that kept them from what God wanted for them. Sad. That can happen to us. Do we trust God? Do we believe God? Or we just, it can't be done. Why can't it be done? Because we don't think it can be done. Well, is God involved? It doesn't matter. Listen, we need to walk by faith and not by sight. Well, because of their unbelief, the Lord wasn't pleased with them, and they're murmuring and they're complaining. And so it tells us, verse 6, these things that happened back in the book of Exodus, these things actually became our example to the intent that we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted. And we do not become idolaters as were some of them. As it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink, and they rose up to play. Paul says, you know what happened to those people in the wilderness? That should serve for us as an example. They lusted after the things that God didn't have for them. And that happened repeatedly. Remember that one part when they were in the Old Testament and wandering through the wilderness, and they said, we're sick of this manna. By the way, the word manna means, what is it? We don't know what this is. And there's a little bit of a description of what it was like. And they were the Lord provided it every single day. They said, we're sick of this. We want quail. They wanted meat. Give us meat. We want meat. We want meat. Moses said, where am I going to get all the meat for you? Well, God gave them what they wanted. In fact, later on in the Old Testament, it says God gave them the meat that they desired, but he sent leanness into their souls. They had quail coming out their nose, coming out their ears. It was repulsive by the end of it. They had so much of it. And also they lusted after other things. You remember right after they came out, Moses goes up onto Mount Sinai to meet with the Lord where he's going to get the 10 Commandments and come back down from the mountain. Meanwhile, Aaron's at the bottom of the hill fashioning a golden calf for the people. He said, give me all your gold earrings. He gave them all his gold earrings. He fashions this little golden calf, and we don't know where Moses is, but here's the God that brought you out of Egypt. And the people, it says they rose up to play. They began to dance around it and worship it in immoral ways. Meanwhile, Moses is on the hill, and the Lord says, you need to get down from here, Moses, your people. He tells Moses they're your people. Moses is like, I thought they were your people. Your people. They're sinning. Moses comes running down the hill, as it were, and he has the 10 Commandments in his hands, and he looks and he sees everybody dancing around the golden calf, worshiping in such perverse ways. And he took the 10 Commandments and threw them down on the ground, and he broke them. Someone said Moses was the first person to break all the 10 Commandments at once. That's a little joke. Literally threw them down. And after this, of course, he took the golden calf and he ground it. He grinded it into powder, threw it in the water, and he made the people drink it. And he said to Aaron, what did you do? And Aaron, classic, he says, you know the people. I don't know, I put the gold in there and poof, out came this golden calf. Oh, so sad. 3,000 people died that day who didn't want to serve the Lord. I mean, all of that was supposed to be used as an example so that we would not make the same mistake they had made. Did you know that these things written in Old and New Testament, they're written for our admonition so that we can learn from those mistakes, not repeat them? And what else did they do? Well, he tells us here. He says, the people sat down to eat and drink, rose up to play. Verse 8, nor let us, he says us, commit sexual immorality as some of them did. And in one day, 23,000 fell. Oh, Lord. That was another example there in the plains of Moab. The people, were tempted by the Moabite women. And so they entered into these relationships idolatrously and sexually perverse ways. And in one day, bang, all of them, as was mentioned here, the number, over 20,000 people died that day, tempting the Lord, disobediently rebelling against his commands. Wow. So what can you learn from all this? Here's what we can learn. Don't be those people. Learn the lesson from the Old Testament. Don't go that direction. Don't mess around with those things. You're going into the weekend. What do you got planned? Prayerfully, it's nothing idolatrous. Prayerfully, it's nothing immoral. If you got plans to do something like that, can I encourage you right now, listen to me on this, in light of the text, cancel it. Oh, but they're going to be bummed that I'm not there. So what? Better to be right with the Lord than to fall into temptation or run into temptation and have to deal with the consequences of a bad decision. Oh, these things are written for our instruction. May God help us to learn to do the right thing, to walk in a place of blessing. That's God's desire for us. May the Lord bless you this weekend. And listen, we'll be back Monday. Take care. We'll see you soon.